The Galactic Empire reigned supreme, its iron grip suffocating the galaxy under the shadow of the Emperor's rule. The rebellion, scattered and beleaguered, clung to hope as they sought a way to ignite the spark that would bring freedom. Amid the icy wastes of Hoth, a critical discovery would alter their destiny forever. While scouting for new locations for a base, a rebel reconnaissance team stumbled upon an ancient structure buried beneath layers of snow and ice. The structure, worn and alien, seemed older than anything known to the galaxy. Inside, they found a cryostasis chamber, its lights faintly flickering, as if defying the passage of millennia. The figure within was unmistakably human, yet his visage was that of a warrior from a bygone era. The rebels activated the chamber, and after a moment that felt like an eternity, the man within opened his eyes. He was Revan, a name that resonated through the Force, though none in the rebel team could have known his storied past. Jedi, Sith, hero, and villain, his identity had shifted as often as the tides of war. For Revan, awakening in a galaxy so alien and unfamiliar was disorienting, but he quickly adapted, his sharp mind piecing together the truth. This empire, the Sith-like despotism, and the suffering he sensed through the Force compelled him to act. The struggle of the rebels mirrored the battles he had fought long ago against the Mandalorians, the Sith, and the oppressive forces of tyranny. Initially wary, the rebels grew to trust Revan as he demonstrated his profound understanding of warfare and strategy. He spoke little of his past, offering only cryptic glimpses into the wisdom he had gained over centuries. His power in the Force was unparalleled, and his grasp of the galaxy's political currents astounded even the most seasoned rebel leaders. To Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, Revan became both an asset and an enigma, a warrior of a kind they had never seen before. Revan's influence was immediate. His tactical brilliance helped the rebels turn what had been a series of chaotic skirmishes into a coordinated campaign. He insisted on striking where the Empire was weakest, not only in resources but in morale. Revan's ability to sense the intentions and fears of the Empire's leaders through the Force allowed the rebels to anticipate their moves, avoiding ambushes and sowing confusion within Imperial ranks. His unconventional approach often clashed with the methods of rebel commanders, but the results were undeniable. The Force itself seemed to respond to his return. Revan sought out Jedi artifacts hidden across the galaxy, remnants of an era he understood deeply. These treasures bolstered the rebels' faith and provided them with weapons and knowledge that had been thought lost forever. Revan, ever pragmatic, trained a select group of rebels in the ways of the Force, creating a cadre of warriors who could hold their own against the Emperor's inquisitors. These Force adepts, as they were called, became a terrifying new threat to the Empire, striking fear into even the Sith-trained hunters dispatched to destroy them. Yet Revan was not without his conflicts. His duality, the lingering shadows of his Sith past, occasionally caused rifts among the rebels. Some questioned his motives, fearful of his immense power and the unknown depths of his history. The whispers of his darker side were a shadow he could never fully escape. Revan, for his part, never denied the mistakes he had made in his previous life. He wore his past like a mantle, a reminder of the price of ambition unchecked by compassion. It was through this honesty that he earned the loyalty of those closest to him, though the galaxy at large remained divided on whether he was savior or a looming threat. The Empire soon became aware of this new adversary. Darth Vader himself took a personal interest in the man, leading the rebel forces with an almost preternatural ability to counter their strategies. The Emperor, too, grew uneasy. Though Revan was an ancient figure, even in the Emperor's studies of Sith lore, he had underestimated the magnitude of his power and influence. Vader, tasked with eliminating this anomaly, found himself intrigued rather than threatened. He saw in Revan a kindred spirit, a fallen Jedi whose strength in the Force transcended the boundaries of light and dark. Their confrontation was inevitable. When Revan and Vader finally crossed paths on a forgotten world, the duel was unlike anything seen before. Lightsabers clashed in a storm of fury, their battle an expression of the conflicting ideologies and shared pain that had defined their lives. Revan, however, did not seek to destroy Vader, he sought to redeem him. Though Vader dismissed Revan's appeals to abandon the dark side, seeds of doubt were sown. Revan's presence in the galaxy reverberated across the Force, awakening old powers and forgotten alliances. The Wookiees of Kashyyyk, inspired by tales of his valor, joined the rebellion in greater numbers. Mandalorians, who revered Revan as a legendary adversary, found themselves torn between their ancient codes of honor and the oppressive reality of the Empire's rule. Even some within the Imperial ranks, disillusioned by the cruelty of the Empire, began to defect, drawn by the charisma of this mysterious warrior. Under Revan's guidance, the rebels achieved victories that once seemed impossible. The Empire, vast and monolithic, began to falter as its forces stretched thin, chasing ghosts orchestrated by Revan's cunning. However, his methods were not without cost. The sacrifices demanded by his campaign strained the rebels' morale, forcing them to grapple with the brutal reality of their struggle. Revan, unyielding in his determination to destroy the Empire, reminded them that victory would not come without suffering. The galaxy began to shift, the balance of power tilting ever so slightly. Yet Revan knew the true battle lay not in military conquest alone, but in the hearts and minds of those fighting. He became a symbol not of destruction, but of hope, a living testament to the power of redemption. As the rebellion grew stronger, whispers of Revan's past began to surface, weaving a legend that transcended time. The legend of Revan began to spread far and wide, giving the rebellion a figurehead who was more than just a leader. He was a myth come to life. Tales of his incredible prowess in the Force, his mastery of both the light and dark sides, and his ability to outwit even the sharpest minds in the Imperial hierarchy invigorated rebel cells across the galaxy. For those who had begun to lose faith in their cause, Revan's presence was a rallying cry, a reminder that even the most impossible odds could be overcome. But Revan's resurgence also created fractures within the rebellion. His methods, rooted in the brutal pragmatism of ancient wars, often clashed with the more idealistic vision held by leaders like Mon Mothma and Bail Organa. While they sought to build a new republic founded on justice and democracy, Revan's focus was singular: the total annihilation of the Empire, no matter the cost. His willingness to employ morally ambiguous tactics targeting supply lines that would leave Imperial-controlled systems to starve, or using deception to turn Imperial factions against each other, troubled many within the Alliance. Yet, his undeniable results silenced most critics. Revan's influence extended beyond the battlefield. He took a personal interest in Luke Skywalker, recognizing the young Jedi's potential as the key to defeating the Sith. Luke, still grappling with his role as the galaxy's last hope for the Jedi Order, found in Revan a mentor who challenged him in ways Obi-Wan and Yoda never had. Where they had taught restraint and caution, Revan urged Luke to embrace his emotions and use them as a source of strength, but without succumbing to darkness. Their philosophical debates were as intense as any battle, and through them, Luke began to understand the true complexity of the Force. Revan's teachings helped Luke see the Force not as a binary construct of light and dark, but as a spectrum of power and intent shaped by the wielder's choices. As Revan delved deeper into the rebellion's cause, he found himself haunted by echoes of his past. The galaxy he had once fought to protect was gone, replaced by an era of fear and oppression that mirrored the very tyranny he had sought to destroy. He questioned whether his return was a blessing or a curse. The pain of his failures weighed heavily on him, but he refused to let it define his actions. In private, he often confided in Leia Organa, whose strength and resolve reminded him of the leaders he had once followed into battle. Leia, in turn, found in Revan a source of wisdom and perspective that fortified her resolve. As the rebellion gained momentum, the Empire's response grew increasingly desperate. Palpatine, recognizing the threat Revan posed, devised a plan to manipulate the ancient warrior. Through visions and whispers in the Force, he sought to exploit Revan's lingering doubts and the scars of his tumultuous history. Palpatine's gambit nearly succeeded. Revan, lured to Coruscant by a promise of uncovering hidden truths about the Empire's origins, confronted the Emperor in the shadows of the Imperial Palace. Their meeting was a battle of wills, with Palpatine attempting to turn Revan back to the dark side by appealing to his desire for order and control. But Revan, tempered by centuries of reflection and the bonds he had formed with the rebels, resisted. He saw through Palpatine's manipulations and struck a blow that resonated through the Force, exposing cracks in the Emperor's invincibility. Though he could not kill Palpatine outright, the encounter left the Emperor shaken and more vulnerable than ever. Revan's actions galvanized the rebellion, setting the stage for the events that would lead to the Battle of Endor. As the Alliance prepared for their most ambitious assault yet, Revan's role became clear. He was not merely a warrior or a tactician, he was a symbol of the rebellion's enduring spirit. Though he had awakened in a galaxy plagued by darkness, he chose to fight for its future, embodying the belief that redemption was always possible. Revan's journey was far from over. Even as the Death Star loomed and the final confrontation with the Empire approached, he knew that his true purpose extended beyond the war. The Force had called him back for a reason, and that reason was tied to the destiny of those who would come after him. Luke, Leia, and the countless others who had risen to the challenge of defying the Empire carried within them the seeds of a new era. In the moments leading up to the rebellion's greatest victory, Revan stood alongside the leaders of the Alliance, a living testament to the power of choice and the enduring strength of hope. Whatever the outcome, his presence had forever changed the course of galactic history. The rebellion was no longer merely a group of freedom fighters, it was a movement fueled by the lessons and legacy of a man who had faced the abyss and emerged stronger. Revan's return to the galaxy reshaped not only the rebellion's tactics but also its very identity. As the Rebel Alliance faced mounting pressure from the Empire's relentless pursuit, it became clear that their scattered forces and disjointed strategies would not be enough to achieve lasting victory. Revan, with his vast knowledge of galactic history and warfare, recognized the parallels between the current struggle and the conflicts of his own time. It was this insight that led him to make a bold and controversial decision, one that would redefine the rebellion's destiny. During his travels across the galaxy with rebel forces, Revan encountered remnants of the Mandalorians, once proud warriors who had been scattered and diminished under the Empire's oppressive rule. Mandalore itself had suffered a purge at the hands of Imperial forces, leaving the Mandalorians fractured and leaderless. Yet Revan saw potential in these warriors, for he knew firsthand the strength and resilience of the Mandalorian people. He understood their culture deeply, having both fought against them, and in many ways admired them during the Mandalorian wars of his own time. Revan approached the surviving clans not as an adversary, but as a potential ally. He spoke to them with the authority of someone who had earned their respect through combat, recounting tales of their past glories and the honor they once embodied. At first, the Mandalorians were reluctant, wary of outsiders, and fiercely independent even in their weakened state. However, Revan's words stirred something within them, a memory of what they had been and what they could be again. He offered them a chance at redemption, not through blind loyalty to the rebellion, but by reclaiming their identity as warriors with purpose. Through a combination of persuasion and action, Revan began to unite the scattered Mandalorian clans. He challenged their leaders in ritual combat, defeating them not out of malice but to prove his worthiness to lead. In doing so, he reminded them of the strength that came from unity. He reframed their involvement in the rebellion not as submission to an alien cause, but as an opportunity to restore their honor by toppling the Empire, the oppressor that had reduced them to a shadow of their former selves. Revan's integration of the Mandalorians into the rebellion marked a turning point. These warriors brought with them not only unparalleled combat skills, but also a sense of discipline and resilience that inspired the rebel forces. Their tactics, honed over centuries of warfare, became an invaluable asset in training rebel soldiers. Revan repurposed the Mandalorians into elite strike teams, their ferocity and precision giving the rebels an edge they had sorely lacked. Yet Revan knew that even with the Mandalorians at their side, the rebellion was still ill-equipped to take on the Empire directly. The Alliance's resources were dwindling, its leadership strained, and its forces scattered across the galaxy. Revan proposed a radical plan, one that would require immense sacrifice and trust. He urged the rebellion to retreat into the unknown regions of dark space for a full year. This decision was met with fierce resistance from many within the Alliance. To retreat into the shadows while the Empire tightened its grip on the galaxy seemed like an act of cowardice to some. However, Revan framed it not as a retreat, but as a necessary step to forge the rebellion into a weapon capable of challenging the Empire on equal terms. He argued that continuing to fight in their current state would lead only to their destruction, while time spent regrouping and rebuilding could turn them into a force the Empire would never expect. Dark space offered both safety and opportunity. There, beyond the reach of Imperial surveillance, Revan could oversee the reorganization of the rebellion. He led the effort to consolidate resources, repair damaged ships, and train rebel forces to operate with the precision of a military machine. The Mandalorians played a critical role, imparting their combat techniques and tactics to rebel soldiers. Meanwhile, Revan delved into the Force, guiding those among the rebels who showed sensitivity to it, helping them hone their abilities into tools of resistance. The year in dark space became a crucible for the rebellion. It was a time of intense training, strategic planning, and soul-searching. Revan's leadership pushed the rebels to their limits, but it also brought them closer together. By the end of the year, the Alliance had transformed. No longer a collection of scattered cells clinging to survival, it had become a coordinated and disciplined movement, armed with new strategies and the unshakable resolve to reclaim the galaxy. When the rebellion finally emerged from dark space, it struck the Empire with a precision and ferocity that caught the Imperials off guard. Rebel forces carried out surgical strikes on key targets, disrupting supply lines, crippling shipyards, and even liberating entire systems with an efficiency that had once seemed impossible. The integration of Mandalorian warriors and the training Revan had instilled in the rebel forces paid off in spades, as the Empire found itself unable to predict or counter the rebellion's newfound strength. The retreat into dark space and the alliance with the Mandalorians did more than bolster the rebellion's military capabilities, it changed the way the galaxy viewed them. No longer a band of desperate insurgents, the rebellion had become a symbol of hope and defiance, a beacon for those oppressed by the Empire. And at the center of it all was Revan, the ancient warrior who had united the Mandalorians, reshaped the alliance, and set them on a path to victory. Revan's gamble had paid off. The rebellion had become the sharp weapon he envisioned, a force that could truly challenge the Empire. But as they began to strike back, he knew the war was far from over. The next step would demand even greater sacrifices, and Revan's resolve would be tested in ways he could not yet foresee.